With the recent LEGO $1,000 Death Star being officially revealed, there has been a ton of discussion around the LEGO community about whether this set is anywhere near worth that $1,000 price point. After watching a number of videos discussing this set, as well as interviews with the set and graphic designers, something has come to my mind that I thought would be great to talk about. These are limitations with LEGO, and I think this could be the explanation as to why modern LEGO feels cheap, lazy, and as if they're cutting so many corners. So what's up, LEGO fans? It's a very annoyed LEGO Man Cam, and let's start off by pointing out what I'm referring to in this new Death Star about corners being cut before we can sort of start to understand why these lazy decisions are happening. The main problems I have is that with this $1,000 set, which I'd like to just emphasize again, $1,000 is so much. You could buy like 2 PS5s for that amount. Anyway, the problem I have are first the minifigure quality, primarily regarding to the Imperial officers all missing those dual molded legs, which LEGO has given us in the past. Think back to Yularen in the Venator. The same then goes for C-3PO, who is missing that dual molded leg as well, which appeared in a set 2 years ago that was about 1/6 of the price of this $1,000 set. Other than that though is the Imperial Dignitary, which has just a pretty plain purple dress piece, which I think would have looked a lot better with some sort of folds and lining printed on it. What the main issue is here for me though, is that these minifigures have all had this type of detail before, and of course in much cheaper sets, since this is the most expensive set of all time. So there's just no excuse as to why it's been excluded here. The other issue here is with the set itself, which at $1,000 has left a lot of fans unhappy. The slice sort of design actually looks okay to me, but it almost doesn't have the feeling of being the Death Star anymore. The older models had that spherical design, which meant that you couldn't see all of the scenes at once. But now with this one, unless you're a real fan of Star Wars, you might not actually notice that this is actually the Death Star. But one particular area that I've seen so many complaints about is the GWP, the gift with purchase, which is a TIE fighter. Now, on first impressions, this looks horrendous, and the Imperial shuttle that's actually included within the Death Star set actually looks somewhat better in this dwarf scale, but this TIE fighter just does not work at all. However, this led me to think, what is actually the better option here? I want to preface this by saying I'm someone who's not going to buy this set, so I don't feel like I'm missing out on not getting the GWP. However, if the GWP did have something exclusive, some exclusive minifigures, or a really good build, I would probably feel more inclined to complain, like I'm really missing out on something because LEGO is saying you have to spend $1,000 to get this thing for 1 week or else you're never getting it. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that kind of dilemma in the comments around this. Last though is that this set has been confirmed to include over 50 stickers, which I think is again ridiculous when there are competing LEGO brands making all printed pieces and even including full lighting kits in their sets for much less than LEGO charges, let alone LEGO's sticker quality is often really poor. So after looking at some of the complaints of this set, I went and listened to the designer interview from David at Solid Brick Studios that he had, and it really did surprise me. He asked some really good questions regarding why LEGO went in this direction with the set in general, and the answer to that, which to no one's surprise really, is that so fans can see all of the Death Star from one front-on view. That makes sense to me, I can totally understand it, and I think it's a good compromise that you can either see all of the rooms, but the set's not a sphere, or the set is a sphere, but you can only see sort of half of the rooms at one given time. Anyway, the main thing that I took away from this interview was the constant use of phrases like limitations or constraints, or the designers stating that there were things that they just couldn't do with the allocated budget. This is where I want the majority of discussion for the rest of this video to be, because my opinion is that this is kind of getting ridiculous. For example, in response to a question about the lack of those dual molded legs on the minifigures, the designers stated that they are only given a particular budget around new pieces, recolors, or prints in any given set, and the compromise here was to prioritize having a breadth of minifigures. So in this set, having 38 minifigures rather than having fewer figures of higher quality. So for me, what I really want to do is take the blame away from the designers, who I truly believe are doing the best that they can. This set looks like it's designed really well. I don't think there's any gaping issues with it like you have with the new turbo tank. But I want to put this blame over onto the higher ups at LEGO, who are the ones that are actually making these budgetary decisions. We've seen this trend a lot in recent LEGO sets. Take LEGO Marvel, for example, the Endgame Final Battle, where the set had lots of minifigures, but all of them missed detail, were either incorrect reuses, or just, were really bad figures. This compares to something like the Fortnite Battle Bus, a $100 set with 9 CMF level quality minifigures. Yes, the other 3 sets from that wave had no minifigures in them, I do understand that, which supposedly allowed LEGO to focus all of the minifigure budget in that one Battle Bus set, but LEGO Star Wars has not seen 9 new figures this entire year at that level of detail. But speaking of that CMF quality, why can't LEGO have regular LEGO minifigures get the same quality and same level of detail as the CMFs? I know that LEGO used to make these figures in different factories, hence why they had that more physical pad printing that you could physically feel on the minifigure, but that hasn't been going on for a while now. And now their figures are made just exactly the same as all the figures from their regular sets. So now I cannot understand how LEGO can't find an extra few cents to just include some extra detail, especially on sets and minifigures that are marketed as 18+ collector's sets. Whereas a few years ago, kid-friendly playsets used to get top-notch better minifigures. So I don't think this problem comes down to laziness or a lack of care on the LEGO designer's behalf, but actually purely on how much budget LEGO is giving each of these sets. This is an executive problem. LEGO has been seen to be making record profits each year. Like genuinely, they released their latest year's results just the other day and everything is up, all in the green. So how on earth, with a brand constantly growing, are we actually going backwards in quality? It's simply just that LEGO is not allotting enough resources to the production of new sets and seemingly spending this money elsewhere. I fear that LEGO is turning into the Pokemon company in some sense. And what I mean by that is, if you're not a fan of Pokemon, you have the main Pokemon video games like Black and White, Sword and Shield, which over the past few years have gone completely backwards in quality, as Pokemon the company themselves have realized they actually don't need to make them better, as they make far more profit in selling plush toys, cards, and other merchandise. I fear that LEGO is kind of heading in this direction, where if you genuinely look at the difference between 2015 and 2025 LEGO, I cannot see barely any evolution. Whereas the evolution between 2005 and 2015 is incredible. So are LEGO just wasting money in the wrong areas? Are they paying Tom Holland millions of dollars for a really weird ad? Or maybe this adults welcome push has changed LEGO's strategy. Like genuinely, what happened to only the best is good enough? I think in 2025, it's more like only the best is good enough within our given budget. I don't want to sound like some massive LEGO hater here. I love LEGO, but with prices at an all-time high and set and minifigure quality taking a real backseat, I'm seriously not sure what the future for LEGO holds, and I just really wanted to get this video out there with all this discussion around the new Death Star. So please let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. I would love to hear what everyone has to say, and with that, I will see you in the next one.